So yeah. Thank you, Pavitra, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Veena. Hope you all can see my screen and my voice is audible. So I welcome you once again to today's webinar on North America's PFAS regulations and reporting requirements. Over the next few minutes, we will explore the latest updates in PFAS regulations, their impact, and compliance requirements across North America. Okay, so before we begin, let's have a quick look at our agenda. We will start with a brief introduction to PFAS and why these regulations matter. Then we will discuss about the environmental and health concerns, followed by Canada's reporting requirements under Section 71. After that, we will move to US regulatory framework covering TSCA and state-level compliance. Finally, we will touch upon the emerging regulatory requirements in North America before wrapping up with a quick question and answer session. So let's start with the basics. So what exactly are PFAS? PFAS are per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. These are a group of synthetic chemicals used in various industries for their resistance to water, heat, and oil. While they have been widely used in products like firefighting foams, non-stick cookware, and water-repellent fabrics, their persistence in the environment and potential health risks have led to increased regulatory scrutiny. There are more than 10,000 PFAS substances which are identified and regulated across the globe. Now let's understand why these regulations are important. PFAS regulations matter because these chemicals do not break down easily and can accumulate in the environment and the human body. Studies have linked PFAS exposure to health issues such as cancer, liver damage, immunity disorder, and reproductive problems, etc. So as these are persistent and bioaccumulative, they pose risk to humans, other organisms, environment, and aquatic life. Governments worldwide are now focusing on stricter control measures to manage their production, use, and disposal. So let's look at some key environmental and health concerns. PFAS contamination is a growing concern. These chemicals have been detected in drinking water, soil, and even in the blood of humans and aquatic life. The main sources of PFAS contamination includes discharge of firefighting foams, industrial discharges, landfill leachate, and wastewater treatment plants. Because PFAS can travel long distance and remain in the environment for decades, they pose a significant challenge for regulators. So, yeah. Now let's see how Canada is tackling this issue. The Government of Canada has implemented reporting requirements for PFAS under Section 71 of the Canadian Environmental Protection Act, CEPA. This means that companies must provide detailed information on manufacture, import, and use of PFAS in their products. So, yeah. Let's go over some highlights of this reporting requirement. Under CEPA Section 71 notice, published in the Canada Government Gazette on July 2024, companies must disclose specific data on PFAS containing items, including their purpose, quantity, disposal, and distribution details. This information gathering initiative applies to around 300 PFAS substances. Those are classified into highest, moderate, and lower concerns, that is part 1, 2, and 3 respectively. So, who is required to respond to this data call? This notice applies to any person who satisfies any of these criteria during the calendar year 2023. Entities meeting these reporting criteria, any one of these reporting criteria of the notice, must submit the required information in Excel reporting file to the Government of Canada through Environment and Climate Change Canada's single window system. The deadline for reporting to the notice was in January. So there were certain exemptions. We'll see that. Yeah. Not all PFAS containing items require reporting. Exemptions are there for substances present in trace amounts, or those used in research and development, or substances which were already regulated under other frameworks, micro businesses, and export only businesses. Some of those exemptions are listed here. So what are the informations to be included in the Excel reporting file to come and should be submitted to the Canada government website? So the notice outlines 12 manufactured item categories. So some of those items are like items intended to be used by children under the age of 14, items intended to come in contact with the human body, food or beverages, food processing equipments, clothing, furniture, carpet, air freshener, deodorant, etc. So if the reportable PFAS substance is present in these listed manufactured item, companies should provide all of these details to the government. Their company information, PFAS substance details, substance identity, its concentration, its applications, its weight, and its commercial and consumer uses, and other technical details such as molecular weight, molecular structure, monomer details, etc. But if the item is not belonging to any of those 12 listed categories, such as automotive products, firefighting foams, then the company must provide only their company information and the description of the manufactured item. So let's summarize some key takeaways for Canada PFAS reporting. The reporting by the manufacturer or importer should be done through Environment and Climate Change Canada's single window online reporting system. All the data submitted should be retained for a minimum of 3 years post-reporting deadline. Failure to respond to this notice could lead up to a fine of $50,000 for first violation, and that could be up to $1 million for repeated violations. And the submitted information will be used by the regulators to establish future policies related to PFAS. Based on this information, they will prepare future restrictions or prohibitions. Okay, so it's time for a quick poll. Okay, please try to answer it. Okay, I hope you all have answered it. The answer is false because the deadline was in Jan 2025. So the entities requested for extension will still have time until the requested period. So now let's shift our focus to the United States and its regulatory landscape. In the US, PFAS regulations fall under Toxic Substance Control Act or TSCA. The Environmental Protection Agency has introduced new reporting requirements under TSCA Section 87. In addition, individual states have also implemented their own regulations, making compliance more complex. Let's look at the key highlights of these reporting rules. Okay. So as amended by the National Defense Authorization Act for Fiscal Year 2020, EPA is requiring any person who manufactures, including import or has manufactured PFAS or PFAS containing articles in any year since 2011 to electronically report those information regarding PFAS uses, its production volume, disposal, exposure, and environmental and health hazards details to EPA. So this is a one-time reporting activity, and we will discuss more about this in the coming slides. Okay, yeah. PFAS definition. So let's break this down in simple terms. Not all PFAS are the same. So how do we know which one needs to be reported? The EPA has identified certain chemical structures that qualify a substance as PFAS under the reporting rule. If a chemical has at least one of these three structural units, it falls under the rule. Think of these as unique building blocks in a chemical structure. The first one is a chain where CF2 and CF groups are connected to other atoms, and the second one contains oxygen in between two fluorinated carbon units, and the third one has a specific carbon fluorine arrangement which makes it behave like PFAS. Now, how do you check if a substance needs reporting? So the EPA has provided a list of non-PFAS that already qualify for reporting, with over 1,200 PFAS substances. But this is not an exhaustive list. There are two more major lists. One is EPA's Comtox database with more than 13,000 PFAS entries, and another list with about 12,000 substances in the EPA's Substance Registry Service. So here the important point is, if a chemical is not on any of this list but still has one of the structural features I mentioned, it still needs to be reported. Okay. So let's go over some important points about how PFAS reporting works under this rule. If a company needs to report PFAS data, they must submit it electronically through the EPA's CDX system. This is an online platform where companies securely provide their data to the EPA. So there is no need of paper forms. Everything happens digitally. The reporting tool also has a helpful feature. If a company has already submitted certain data to the EPA under other TASCA programs, they don't have to submit it again. This prevents duplicate reporting and saves time. They only have to refer under which year and under which program they submitted those information. If a company is involved in any of these activities, such as manufacturing PFAS within the US, importing PFAS or PFAS containing articles like coatings or treated fabrics, it needs to be reported. Unlike other PFAS EPA reporting programs, this rule does not have exemptions for small manufacturers. Also, there are no broad exemptions in this rule, unlike the chemical data reporting. So here is a quick look at the TASCA reporting timeline. The final rule was published in October 2023, and the submission period will begin in July 2025, with a deadline for most manufacturers set at Jan 2026. But for small manufacturers, they have an extended deadline until July 2026. So who is a small manufacturer? There are two eligibility criteria for determining a small manufacturer. First is, if a manufacturer's or importer's total annual sales is less than $120 million, and also their annual production or importation volume of a particular substance is less than 1 lakh pounds, then that manufacturer or importer can avail small manufacturer reporting timeline extension. And another criteria is, if their total annual sales is less than $12 million, regardless of the quantity of substance produced or imported, they will also get this extension, timeline extension. But there is one important point. Not all small manufacturers will get this reporting timeline extension. If a small manufacturer has PFAS to report that were not imported as articles, maybe manufacturing PFAS or PFAS containing articles, then they must submit all information by January 2026 itself. Okay. So let's see who needs to report under this data code. If a company manufactures or imports PFAS into the US for commercial use, it must report it to the EPA. Sometimes PFAS is not intentionally made, but is created as a side effect during manufacturing. Even if it's an unwanted byproduct or small impurity, it still counts, and the company needs to report it. And even if a company no longer deals with PFAS today, but they made or imported any PFAS between 2011 and 2022, it still has to report it. This is called the look back period. And the last one is, if a company collects and reuses waste materials that contain PFAS, whether it's leftover chemicals or industrial sludge or contaminated products, it still has a reporting obligation. Okay, so we have talked a lot about who needs to report PFAS under the EPS. But there are also some exemptions, cases where companies or organizations do not have to report. Let's go through those one by one. Yeah. If companies are actually making or importing PFAS, but just using it or selling it or disposing of it, they don't have to report the data. If a university or research lab is studying PFAS, but not selling it or making it for commercial purposes, they are also exempt from reporting. Any PFAS that is parts of nuclear energy operations as covered under Atomic Energy Act is also exempted from this rule. These materials are already heavily regulated under different rules. And then if PFAS is used in guns, bullets, or related defense equipment, they do not have to be reported. And if a company is importing waste that contains PFAS for the sole purpose of destroying it or disposing of it, they don't have to report. This encourages proper waste management without adding unnecessary reporting requirements. And if a government agency makes or imports PFAS, but not for commercial gain, they are also exempted. And then pesticides or tobacco products or food, cosmetics or drugs, they are also exempted from this data code. Yeah. So here is a flowchart representation for decision making. First, determine if reporting is required. And second, which form has to be selected for reporting. The online reporting tool offers 3 different forms, allowing reporters to select the appropriate one based on their specific PFAS related activities. That is, if company is manufacturing or importing less than 10 kg of PFAS per year only for research and development purposes, they can use the streamlined R&D reporting form. Similarly, for article importers, they can use streamlined article importing form. However, for companies producing larger amount of PFAS, they must use the standard reporting format, which requires more detailed information. Okay. Yeah. So let's go over the reporting forms and its requirements. So let me show you some of the key data elements. Yeah. I hope you can see the screen. I am sharing an Excel file. So this file is published by EPA as a support document for entities to gather details in advance. So there are 3 different tabs. Standard form for PFAS manufacturers, and then streamlined form for article importers, another streamlined form for manufacturers who make less than 10 kg per year of PFAS for only for R&D purposes. So on the standard form, chemical identity has to be given in the reporting tool, that is chemical name, its cache number or task accession number, its trade name or molecular structure, its physical state, and then its industrial processing and use details, consumer and commercial use details, and its production volume, and then byproduct details, and environmental and health hazard details, and then worker exposure details, and finally the disposal details and release to air, land, or water details. So moving to the article importer form, they should also submit the chemical identity along with industrial processing and use details, and then consumer and commercial use, and then import production volume. Okay, so the last one is streamlined R&D form. They only have to provide the chemical identity and the production volume. So let's go back to the presentation. So if in that data elements, any value is not known or reasonably ascertainable, even after exercising certain levels of due diligence in gathering the information, reporter can enter NKRA, not known or reasonably ascertainable. Okay, so when you select PFAS in imported articles in the section 87 reporting tool, the program will show only fields required for this streamlined reporting. Only certain fields of the standard form are required for the streamlined imported article form. Since importers may not always know the exact amount of PFAS in imported articles, the reporting form allows them to report the total weight of imported articles or the number of articles imported instead of specifying the PFAS weight. And if a company is both importing products that contain PFAS and also manufacturing the same PFAS, then they have two options for reporting. First one is they can use streamlined form for imported PFAS containing articles and standard form for PFAS that the company manufactures. And the second option is instead of using two different forms, so they can include all the information in the standard form only. Okay, so for streamlined form for manufacturing PFAS for R&D purposes, companies must report details about the PFAS they manufacture, including its chemical identity and how much they produce. We have seen those data elements in the Excel file. If a company makes PFAS for commercial use, they must report it, even if they never actually sell or use it. And if a company produces small amount of PFAS for both research and for other uses, then they cannot use the simplified streamlined reporting form. They must use the longer standard reporting process. Okay, so let's look at the standard reporting requirements. If a company does not qualify for the streamlined reporting process, they must provide the detailed information. Companies must submit records for every year they manufactured PFAS, including how it was made and disposed of, any byproducts created during manufacturing or use, how workers were exposed at the factory, and how PFAS was processed and used in industries. If PFAS ended up in consumer products, and any non-health or environmental effects. They only need to report what is already known or reasonably available. No extra research is needed. Companies do not need to conduct new lab tests for PFAS if they don't already have those data. If the company has previously tested products for PFAS, those results must be included in the report. Okay, so it's time for our second poll. Okay, so I hope you all have answered it. Okay, so we have seen the key data elements in the EPA published Excel file earlier. Its official link is given here for your reference. And in the reporting form, provide the correct case number for your chemical substance if it is listed on the non-confidential portion of TASCA inventory. If it is listed in the confidential portion, then report the TASCA accession number. PFAS are often confidential, so it should be assigned an accession number already. So you can look up a chemical accession number in SRS, Substance Registry Service, if you have the PMN case number. Let's have a quick look at the SRS search window page. Okay, so this is the home page of Substance Registry Service. So in the reporting form for adding our PFAS substance, we have to visit this website and search for our chemicals. Here we can search with its chemical name or case number or any other identity unique ID number. So for example, we can search with the case number. We can start searching like this. It will provide case number starting with the given numbers. Okay. Yeah. So this is the search result. If this is our substance we are looking for, we can select it. It will be added to our reporting form. And this is there is another search window for finding out the substances in confidential portion of TASCA inventory. Here we have to search with the generic name or PMN number or accession number. Okay, so yeah. If you are reporting information for more than one PFAS at your site, you must report information for each reportable PFAS on its own form. Another important point is upload the environmental and health effects of the substance or mixture using OECD harmonized templates if it is available already. Okay, so let's see what is confidential business information. Some companies don't want their business details or chemical data made public. EPA allows companies to claim confidentiality, but there are specific rules they must follow. If a company wants to keep their information private, they must request confidentiality for each chemical individually, not as a group. And when submitting the data, companies must explain why they need confidentiality. They can't just claim it without justification. So what can be kept confidential? Companies can request confidentiality for their site location, their company name, and the contact person details handling the report, etc. But for article importers, this option will not be available. They cannot claim their data as confidential. Also, EPA will not allow confidentiality for certain details such as accession number, LPA number, and how PFAS is processed and used in industries, and chemical names. For example, if that chemical name is already present in the public list, it cannot be claimed as confidential. And also, confidentiality has a time limit. It's 10 years. After that, they must reapply and prove that secrecy is still needed. So there is another feature in the reporting tool. It's joint submission. Joint submissions are for PFAS manufacturers submitting either the standard form or the R&D streamlined form. It is required if the manufacturer does not know about the chemical identity and their supplier will not disclose that to the manufacturer due to confidentiality concerns. So in that cases, they can go for the joint submissions. They can notify the primary submitter using the online reporting tool itself, and the primary submitter, that means their supplier, they can provide the substance identity directly to EPA. Okay, so here also article importers will not have this option. So let's rewind some important points. Companies that needs to report PFAS data must submit their information starting from July 2025. To submit data, companies must first register with CDX system. It's an online platform used for regulatory reporting. After submitting the report, companies, they should keep all related records for 5 years in case of future audits or inquiries. If any company fails to report, they can be fined $37,500 per day, and if the violation is serious, it can be up to $50,000. And there will also imprisonment be there, or both, fine and imprisonment. Okay, so we have discussed about US federal reporting requirements. However, it is important to note that there are state level regulations that applies for PFAS manufacturers or importers or consumers of certain PFAS containing products. The states are coming up with phased approach for each PFAS containing products category. Some states like California, Maine, Minnesota, Vermont, Colorado, they have implemented strict bans on PFAS in consumer products, while others require detailed reporting. These varying requirements add another layer of complexity for businesses operating across multiple states. This table shows an existing restriction or reporting requirements for different product categories in different states. These are just examples, not the complete list of restrictions. So let me also tell you an example of one of the PFAS restriction in textile articles in California. The bill is called Safer Clothes and Textiles Act. It prohibits manufacture, sale, and distribution of new textile articles in California, which if it contains intentionally added PFAS starting from Jan 2025. However, there is an exemption for outdoor apparel for severe wet condition. This exemption is valid until December 2027. Okay, yeah. Regulations in North America are evolving rapidly. Yeah, we have seen it here. The US is tightening federal and state level controls, and Canada is expanding its reporting requirements. And Mexico is also in the early stages of developing its own PFAS regulations. Companies must stay informed to ensure compliance across all regions. So let's see what are the developments in Canada. In this month, on this March, Canada released State of PFAS report along with a proposed risk management approach. According to this report, the class of PFAS except fluoropolymers will be classified as toxic, and it will also be included in Part 2 of Schedule 1 under CEPA Act. The Canadian government wants to reduce PFAS pollution through a phased approach. In phase 1, starting from 2025, firefighting foams will be banned, which is a major pollutant. And in phase 2, PFAS in consumer products will be regulated. Products such as textiles, cosmetics, food packaging materials, and building materials. In phase 3, they study other industries to decide if further restrictions are needed. Canadians can share their opinions on this plan from March 8th to May 7th, 2025. 2 months are there. So now let's see the developments from US federal government. The EPA has set strict limits on the amount of PFAS chemicals allowed in drinking water to protect the public health. So the new limit is 4 parts per trillion. This is an extremely small amount. Also, EPA has labeled PFOA and PFOS as hazardous substance under a law called CERCLA. This means that companies or organizations responsible for pollution, they must pay for the cleanup activity instead of taking it from the taxpayers. Okay, so this slide shows examples of US states' upcoming restrictions on PFAS products. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. Some states like Maine, Minnesota, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Vermont, they require manufacturers to report PFAS usage, and some other states they need a specific labeling for products, etc. Yeah. So let's see Mexico's developments in PFAS regulations. Mexico is planning to limit the trade of certain PFAS like PFOA and PFOS. This is part of its commitment to the Stockholm Convention, an international agreement to reduce harmful pollutants. So it's still in draft phase. Okay, yeah. Now that we are almost at the end of the topic, let's have a quick recap of what we have discussed. First, we looked at what is PFAS and discussed its reporting requirements in North America. We also looked at some of the emerging requirements. To summarize, PFAS regulations are becoming stricter across North America with federal and state level requirements in place. Staying proactive in compliance will help businesses navigate these evolving regulations smoothly. As EPA quoted, the goal is to restrict, remediate, and research PFAS to keep people and the environment safe. Okay, so for additional details, you can refer to the official regulatory sources listed here, including the PFAS, EPS PFAS strategic roadmap and TASCA reporting instruction guides. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at APA Engineer. Yeah. At APA Engineering, we offer end-to-end support to our customers for PFAS compliance. This includes compliance support, data collection and consolidation from suppliers, regulatory monitoring, and reporting assistance to help businesses meet their PFAS obligations. If you need guidance on reporting or regulatory strategy, please let us know. Okay, it's time for our last poll.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all joining us today. So we hope you found the webinar informative and useful. So because your participation means a lot to us. Before we wrap up, I would like to mention for those who answered yes for the last poll, we will reach out to you within the next 24 hours to schedule a call. Thank you for this. And a special thank you to our speaker for sharing her insights and expertise with us today. So we truly appreciate her time and valuable contribution. Additionally, a short survey will be available once the webinar ends. Your feedback is invaluable, and please help us improve the future webinars to better survey your needs by providing your feedback. So if you require any services or software solutions, as the speaker Veena mentioned, PFAS, EPR, IMTS, conflict minerals, ESG, CBAM, or any other compliance areas, please don't hesitate to reach out to us by writing an email to compliance@apaengineering.com. Veena, could you go to the last slide so they can see the email ID?
Yes. Yes.
This is our email ID. So we are here to help. You can write to us. Once again, thank you for being a part of today's session. So we look forward to connecting with you soon with another webinar. Thank you all. And if you have any questions, we could see some questions, but that it's time up. We will write to us the email. We will follow up back. If you have more further questions also, please write to at complaints@apengineering.com. We'll get back with you and answer. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.